Working with the LSO means that you don't have to worry.
Writing for the LSO has really been a great opportunity for me.
I really look for composers regardless of their background.
It's a dream for any composer to write pieces for the LSO.
I wish when I was younger I'd had an experience like that.
I don't think any composer has come out the other side without a huge learning experience.
For a young composer, it's just the most exciting opportunity imaginable, really.
When the LSO set up Discovery in 1989, creativity was at the heart of the work. And around that time, a number of orchestras were starting to do this work. And I clearly remember Sir Peter Maxwell Davies saying, children must get their hands dirty in the music. And that's what we've sought to do, to give them the chance to work with the raw materials and to create their own pieces of music. In Discovery, we can give young people the opportunity of that first creative moment with music, in enabling them to create their own work and then hearing it. And I think it's that basic compositional language that they are learning about in discovery work, which then comes through at a much later stage. It can take the form of creativity in any other art form, but in music particularly, then we are working with young composers at the next critical phase of their career. Soundhub is an opportunity for composers to explore and to take a free approach to what they want to write and how they want to do it.
I applied to Soundhub because I really wanted to be involved in a community of musicians passionate about new music. I was interested to see what was happening in other parts of the country. Originally, I was based in Newcastle, and I was really keen to see what was happening in London for a start, and excited to hear about the other work of composers in Soundhub.
What you can do is completely up to you, and there are so few limits that that's really, really good as a composer.
The freedom of it was the big draw, because a lot of these kind of projects, a lot of these schemes for young composers and emerging artists are quite fixed, and what we do is very process driven and not product driven, and we kind of like to explore, and the opportunity to use the space and the resources the LSO offer was absolutely perfect. We came in with a very kind of loose plan which changed so much, and actually that wasn't a problem, that was actually encouraged.
The workshops, concerts and events that Soundhub offers were really, really appealing and a great boost, as you're trying to sort of build a career as a composer, to have access to new stimulating activities and a chance to chat to other musicians in contemporary music.
I think the great success of the scheme is the diversity and the range of work that's coming through. I think these composers are hugely imaginative, and they've been able to use Soundhub as the forum for expressing that.
It's just such a rare chance to hear your music played in the best possible conditions by performers who are really, really dedicated and consummate professionals.
They're just let loose on us, really. They've got these marvellous premises here at St Luke's to work in, and access to any of the players they want, really, and mentoring. I think it's a wonderful thing, and it's very stimulating for us to work with them.
The Panufnik scheme is the first opportunity for young composers to work with a professional orchestra.
I thought about the idea of if there was some way we could help young composers by bringing them together with the orchestra. Now, the LSO is so fantastic, the way in which it helps young musicians. We had the idea of getting young composers to write very short pieces and then having them workshopped by the orchestra in order to really find out how it works to write for really great players.
So, this sounds extremely well, but I think the tempo you indicated is too fast. Because if we play in the tempo you indicated, we even can't realize all the colors.
And I've always said, that composers are scared of orchestras, but orchestras are rather scared of composers as well. So getting them to know each other is just a remarkable experience. And throughout the year they're working on the scheme, they go to rehearsals, talk to players, and then they have this amazing opportunity of a workshop with the orchestra.
And I really look for composers, regardless of their background, and primarily on their talent and their potential. And so for someone like me, it's just been amazing to have that opportunity to write for such a great and strong orchestra and hear my music back, and that just inspires new ideas.
Well, I think they pinch themselves actually to think that they're working with one of the great orchestras, and it is an extraordinary resource for them to have. I don't think any other orchestra in Europe that I know of does anything on the same scale.
The Panufnik scheme has turned out to be a great platform for many of our finest young composers, both working with the LSO and working elsewhere.
Writing Verga for the LSO was great for me because not only was it workshop beforehand, there was a sort of workshop after the performance, I think the following May, and Pierre Boulez was there at that workshop, and so he then went on to conduct the piece in Paris, so it then gave me this huge opportunity to have the piece played by another orchestra, and actually the piece has been played by several other orchestras as well. So yeah, writing for the LSO has really been a great opportunity for me.
Helen Grime was clearly very talented when she first worked with us, and I was delighted that Pierre Boulez picked up her work, having heard one of the workshops. And now she's going on to all sorts of major commissions, and we're very proud of the fact that she started first with the LSO, and I hope eventually she'll return. Placing major commissions with the leading composers of our time is extremely important, and I'm delighted that Sir Peter Maxwell Davies was able to accept our invitation to write a major work.
Oh, this is an orchestra which I've always admired, always loved. They've done a few of my pieces, always been excellent. This is the first time I've had the chance to write a piece specially for them. And I hope that I've given them all something where they can shine, and they've got a solo. We're very conscious of that because they really are a virtuoso lot. I think they can probably play pretty well anything.
There's a kind of immediacy, I think, about the sound of the LSO, which is thrilling. There's a brightness to the sound.
I'm delighted that we're performing a new work by Hugh Watkins this year, and that it's a flute concerto for our principal flute, Adam Walker. Hugh has been associated with the LSO for many years, having taken part in one of the Young Composers Schemes, and we've watched his career evolving, and it's lovely to see him coming back and working with us again.
I benefited from the Panufnik scheme with the last piece I wrote for the orchestra. It enabled me to have a rehearsal of the piece, 6 months before the performance, which is invaluable. That seems to be the way the LSO work. It's a rather daunting thing writing the first piece for orchestra. You have no idea. You want to take a lot of risks, but if you have a rehearsal so well in advance of the performance, you get the chance to try things out and change them. I think it's something I wish a lot more orchestras would take up, actually.
The LSO has always had a family of artists associated with it, but I feel very strongly that composers have to be part of that mix, and that we need to be closely in touch with many of the composers of our time.
I think it's very important that a composer, when he's still quite young, or she is quite young, learns how an orchestra thinks and reacts. It can be very tough, but very necessary.
It's a fantastic opportunity to work with the LSO, and it was great for me as an emerging composer. I think it was a fantastic platform, and it created a lot of exposure for me, and I went on to then have a lot of performances by other great orchestras of the piece.
There are so many composers around and so few opportunities, and I can't think of another orchestra that has supported such a range and such a large number of young and not so young composers, actually.
For me, it's a real joy to see some of the younger composers coming through later in their own careers, working with the orchestra again, bringing ideas to us, and being able to have that relationship with them, which goes far beyond an individual commission.